Welcome to this episode on partnering with divine transmissions, tuning into your most aligned path of support. So, thank you so much for being a part of the divine transmissions community, for tuning into the podcast. And I'm super excited to bring in the guides for them to share a little bit more about how, if you're feeling that desire to dig a little bit more deeply into our community here at Divine Transmissions, what are the pathways to partnering with us and what may be the most aligned paths of support for you? So, just going to take a moment to connect to the guides and bring them forward. Hello, dear one. This is Thoth and an expanded council of light, including the divine transmissions, being of light, moving more into the forefront of this divine transmission. We are delighted that you are here. What we know about you because you're here is that you are on a path of evolution. You're on a path of personal growth or spiritual transformation. You're someone that is attuned to the power of your inner world and how that overflows or is interconnected with the outer world or the physical plane experience. And so, divine transmissions is the business that Danielle has birthed many decades ago in partnership with beings of light, in partnership with the guides. And the essence of divine transmissions is that the divine is the extraordinary. And divine transmissions is also about missions in transition. And so you may be called to this community because you sense that your mission is in transition. It's in transition because there's a new paradigm of consciousness, and the old ways of being are outdated and they no longer work. And that there is very much that desire to be the current version of you, to live your highest contribution, to make the difference that you're here to make while being fully supported along the way. And so we're all about manifesting, supporting you to actualize, to create your most extraordinary and unique work and life. And so when clients come to partner with us, there are various paths to take. Of course, we have the podcast and we have books and card deck and those kinds of ways to kind of get more familiar with us. And yet maybe you've been wondering, if you want to go a little deeper, which path, which offering may be the most aligned for you. So we want to talk about the what we call the clarity stage and the activate stage. And that sometimes our clients come to us, and you may be experiencing this as well, that they're already successful and they've already established their expertise, uh, and yet they're not fully in their zone of genius or in their unique ascended masteries, in that what makes them different. And so things are a lot harder, or there may be confusion, or things aren't working well on the physical plane. And so an example of that may be that they're an expert in their field. Like we just had a client take this path, and she was a lawyer, and she got clear that that career was wrapping up, so her mission was in transition. And then she was kind of wondering, what is her gift? What is her highest contribution? What is it that she's really here to do? And she had developed different spiritual modalities on the side, including voice, a unique way of toning that was creating transformation. And when she came to us, she had like 10 years of struggling about the question of, why am I here and what am I here to do? And she joined us for our highest contribution activation. And our highest contribution activation includes our unique divine design chart, which really highlights your full path in this lifetime. It gives a big picture of what your highest genius is, or ascended mastery, what your vision is for this next phase of your life, and the entire carnation, your mission, your key to abundance. It also includes more about kind of the entire life cycle and the personal growth that you're here to learn. And so through doing the highest contribution chart, she was having a greater clarity about her unique wiring, her unique divine design. And then she stepped into the Divine Light Activation program, and into the academy with DLA. And by the time she was at the 6th Divine Light Activation, there's 24 Divine Light Activations, she had clarity of what her highest contribution is, that came from within. Yes, with our guidance, with our support, with the activations, with clarity on her highest contribution in her chart. Yet because she's different, you're different, there's unique aspects. Really having clarity from within is so much more powerful than what we often see, is that somebody may come to partner with us and they've outsourced their clarity, and they've asked somebody else what they should do, and then they may have found themselves being in a career that doesn't really support them, or they've gone in a direction to be a weight loss coach, or a love coach, or a business coach, when they really are here to talk about transformation and magic in a unique way. And so those that are on that path of the highest contribution activation, and we also have the visionary heart activation that's a part of that, which is the first divine light activation, that whole pathway is very much about clarity and being able to tap into inner guidance, going within, tuning in inward and going upward. And then the divine light activations, not only like in highest contribution, do you have clarity about what those geniuses are that may not have ever existed on the Earth star before, you also have a way of then activating them, turning them on, embodying them. And that in the activate stage, and again, we have a lot of podcasts and trainings on the 5 stages to manifest or actualize your legacy work. But in the activate stage, it is really like bringing into completion all of the slower vibrational body, mind, emotions that may be taking you out from living your full divine assignment, and activating, like reincarnating with the most current version of you, the most current divine assignment. So another example of a client that went this path with us was that she had been an architect, turned stay-at-home mom while her kids were younger. And she was really feeling called to create her own business. And so in Divine Light Activation, she reincarnated as a light being incarnate. She turned on her ascended masteries, her most current mission, her also tapping into herself as a divine being, and then she activated her mission also as its own autonomous being of light. And then she joined us in the academy and really learned to turn on her ascended masteries of scribing and of healing And then in the academy, she scribed a book and she created her programs, and she especially was beautiful at networking and working with grids, and her book was about that. So her architecture, her expertise that she had before in one career was looking for a new expression. And and then through partnering with us with the academy, she started this new business and created the book, created the offerings, and then also was really adept at calling together communities. And so she would do summits, and she had her programs or has. And so she birthed this new expression of her highest contribution and created this successful business. We're also tuning into another client that went this path with us, where when she first began, and we're kind of talking about uh, the client that may be an expert in your field, like you may have an established expertise that it's wanting to be expressed in a different way, and maybe you have the spiritual side hustle on the side. And so we're thinking of another client who, when she began on this same trajectory, the same path of starting with the visionary heart activation and going into her chart, her based on the divine light activations and divine light activations, that she was working at a university, had a PhD, was teaching, and then on the side had the wall of fame of all the spiritual modalities, and had been a healer. Yet there was this big divide of like keeping her spiritual side on the weekends. And then through partnering with us, she began to bring her spiritual side to the workplace and was teaching meditation as a part of her classes in the university. And then she also went on to partner with the guides and turn on her scribing capacities and birthing her own unique body of work, and taking tours to Egypt and creating program and card deck and launching that business while still having her career. So it was kind of like two water skis. So you may be wondering, like, well, what happens in the highest contribution activation? What happens in divine light activation? Well, again, in the highest contribution activation, based on your birth chart, your birth date and time and your name, you download your birth chart and you receive an overview of these core components of your unique divine design, the entire chart. And then you activate the first divine light activation, which is visionary heart. And visionary heart really also supports you to be in right relationship with your mission. And this is something that we've seen a lot with our clients who are kind of on this path of divine light activation, this path of mission being in transition, knowing that they're meant for something more, knowing that it's also time to turn off the slower vibrations or the trauma response and not be distracted by that, and really turn on the highest level of their mission. Is that sometimes when they start partnering with us, it can feel like the mission is too big or it's too vast, or that they're smaller. And so the visionary heart activation, it also brings back that place of equality and equanimity. And when you turn on yourself as a 24-dimensional being, a light being incarnate, then you also become source energy. You're becoming the highest version of you. You're occupying more of your seat, so that you can partner with the mission that you have and not feel like your mission is bigger than you and you're smaller. It comes from a place of equality and equanimity. So we're also thinking about one of our clients who was already an established entrepreneur, a seven-figure business owner. And when she joined us for Divine Light Activation, there really was this feeling of like, oh, I've got this huge divine assignment, this big mission. And it just feels too much. It feels too overwhelming, or not overwhelming, like the to-do list is so long, and not feeling supported in her own energy system, for her nervous system to not get get whacked out, or there was also some like fears of being visible or being seen. And then with divine light activation, there really was that like being in her seat and really claiming her mission and her uniqueness and blending the spiritual expertise with the business coaching that she was doing. So again, it wasn't like these two sides that were separate anymore, that were brought together. So one more example, and there's so many of our beautiful clients over the years that have joined us for divine light activation and then partnered with us in the academy. Uh, was also someone who had uh, had started their business and been on the path of their business, and yet they knew that there was like a unique something for them to download. Like they had a unique modality, and they'd been teaching their teacher's modality of and using it of astrology and shamanism. And then when they came to partner with us in Divine Light Activation, in Divine Light Activation, they downloaded their book idea like within the first few activations. And so there's so many benefits and so many examples of the clients that go with us on this path. But one of the things that really is essential to highlight here is that the mechanism, if you will, like why it works, is that it's amplifying more of who you are. It's not following a 7-step system. It's supporting your system to turn on what is in dormancy within you, to turn on the unique skills and opportunities and individuals, and to turn off the slower vibrational body, mind, emotions. And so this path of highest contribution activation and DLA, and then continuing on with us in the academy, is one that there is a like a very distinct before and after. And for Danielle, as she brought in divine light activation in 2016, so she activated herself as a light being incarnate, really turned on her light body. There was like this before and after, and she sees this a lot with the clients that have been on this path, and that there's some kind of a limbo state, there's some kind of an in-between state, there's some up leveling, like the old divine assignment you've completed, or it's ready to be upgraded. And there really is this kind of distinct before and after. And the after is much more resource, much more resilient. When we speak about shifting from coming from your identity, your human self, let's say, what we call your bipedal self, where the bipedal self is very much identified with the 3 dimensions of the mind, the emotions, and the physical body sensations, and not tapped into the multi dimensions, not tapped into the divine self, not tapped into the fully realized self. And so with divine light activation, you're occupying more space, and you're turning on also more of the higher dimensions that you have access to. And then you're more resourced, you're more resilient, you're more in alignment with also what it is that you're here for, and that path of supporting you along the way. And so that is one path: highest contribution activation, or also visionary heart, which are available as master classes, where you experience the first divine light activation and highest contribution activation. You download your chart, and then divine light activation, where you're activating the 24 divine light activations, which really turns on your divine self, your divine numerology, and then you're applying it where you're tapping into your unique gifts and talents and creating your world from your natural strengths and from a much more resource place, and not being distracted by the identity of the body, mind, emotions. including the input from the body, mind, emotions. Yet you may notice if you're feeling drained, or like how much the slower vibration body, mind, emotions really take up. And one of the things that we notice with those of you that are on a path of higher consciousness is that the more that your consciousness is attuned, then you may also become more sensitive. Or like some of our clients partner with us because they are highly empathic and highly sensitive and highly attuned, and the more the consciousness raises, then it can feel like an over empathic, or being aware of the slower vibrations all over the planet, and then not having clarity on what's yours, what's mine, what's somebody else's. And so the divine light activation also really supports with that, embodying more light, and amplifying the units of consciousness of more light. So if you're a 24-story building and somebody's anger is coming, or they're angry, and you just know they're angry because you're empathic, you're not going to experience it. It's in the same way as if it's yours. But if you're a 3-story building, there's just more, perhaps that's not the most aligned analogy, but it's like you're more of a sponge or semi-permeable. But if you have the structure of the 24-dimensional building, then you just become this tree, this that, yes, the branches blow in the wind, yet you're very clear on your signature energy. So a second path, and that our clients come to partner with us, is in our manifesting stage. And the manifesting stage is very much about being able to create in the physical plane, and being fully resourced in the physical plane. And so this path may be for you if you're having like your manifesting is hit or miss, or it's not being actualized 100% of the time. And so that path is our Birthright of Love masterclass. What matters most to you? Birthright of Love, activating the energy of love. And then with that, there's also an energy vortex to really support you in being clear on manifesting what matters most to you. And then our Magdalene Wealth Codes pathway, which are the full codes that are also part of the Magdalene manifestation card deck, and activating those codes and becoming a fully initiated Magdalene love being. So turning on your horizontal plane, and then really applying what we call the multi-D abundance method to create abundance in multiple areas simultaneously. So the area of money, time, energy, and relationships, so that you're sharing your highest contribution, you're fully resourced in the process. And so some of our clients that have joined us for the Magdalene codes and for the Birthright of Love, when they show up, they may have a lot of success, and yet they're burnt out. So their energy, their radiant energy, is depleted, or they're trading one form of abundance for another, where they're bringing in money, and yet they're having a body crash, or they don't have time with their loved ones, and they're hitting an upper limit ceiling on what they can manifest. And so they manifest uh, a smaller percentage of what it is that they're choosing to actually create, rather than the full thing. And so in the Magdalene codes, there's the activating of the codes, and then there's also these exercises and meditations and uh, abundance games, where you're choosing to create more in one area of your life. So some of our our Magdalene Codes graduates who've gone with us in this pathway of the Birthright of Love and Magdalene Codes, and then continue to work with us in the academy, have created different results in the areas of abundance that have mattered most to them. So some have brought in more money, some have took their time back to spend more with their loved ones. And and the manifestation stage, it's not only about manifesting the stuff, but it's also about really your capacity to tap into the higher planes or the energy and apply that on the physical plane. As you're probably aware of, at Divine Transmissions, we're very much about applied higher consciousness or spirituality in your daily life and experiencing those changes in your daily life. So one of our clients that came to partner with us on this path, the manifestation path, the Birthright of Love, the Magdalene Codes, and then continuing on in the academy, that when she came to partner with us, she'd been a long time entrepreneur, and yet she was noticing that she was attracting clients that were draining, and that she wasn't earning the amount of money that she was wanting to really create. And then in the Magdalene Codes, where there's so much deep healing, also alignment with around the heart, and opening the heart field, opening up to being receptive, and not having the protective mechanisms that block out the slower vibrations, but also what it is that you're choosing to create. That through the Magdalene Codes and through the Birthright of Love, which is love is a given, it's a birthright. You don't have to prove anything, you don't have to achieve anything, you're already loved. That from that Birthright of Love stance and from the Magdalene Code stance, she called in a whole like a higher level of relationships, clients. And by higher, we mean more aligned, less draining. They were really getting what she was laying down and appreciating the work that she did, and they were able to pay. She also raised the investment level of her programs. They were able and happy to pay the investment, and she sold out her year-long program, where in the past it hadn't fully sold out. It had clients that were draining that would start and then they'd cancel, and it was at a lower investment level. We're thinking of another example of a client as well that was an entrepreneur that joined us for the Magdalene Codes, and she often would like sell out her group program 80% of the time, and then she'd stop. She'd bump up against that upper limit ceiling, and then she'd stop. With the Birthright of Love and love being a given, and with the Magdalene Codes, she kept going, and she actualized 100% and sold out her group. And there's so many other examples of the Magdalene Codes, because it can be about manifesting in the physical plane related to your contribution of your work, but it also goes into the personal aspects and being fully supported. And so another client of ours really was calling in even a higher level of relationships and community, and called in an aligned mentor and hired a team member and called in a best friend. So her focus in the Magdalene Codes was really in the relationship chamber. So these are kind of the two paths that our clients partner with us a lot as they're getting started. And then we just want to share briefly, like, what happens in the academy, what happens in the rest of it. And that in the academy, there is the continuing on. Somebody who started in the Magdalene Codes and they've created abundance in one pillar, then they continue with us for the year to create abundance in another pillar, to be fully supported in multiple areas of their life. Or in Divine Light Activation, you start you're turning on your capacity to communicate with guides, and then in the academy tapping into scribe material, for example, then you get your connection to your guides on speed dial, and then you can create content on demand anytime, anywhere, anything. And that can be speaking up in a meeting, or that can be scribing a book, or creating a program or a modality. That there's also the continuation as well in having extraordinary work and life. So we're excited to break down a little bit, because we know if you're on our mailing list or you've been hanging out with Divine Transmissions for any length of time, that you may be wondering, like, what are the ways to come in? What is the best pathway to support you with where you are? And so that's really the higher purpose of this podcast, to kind of share, like, hey, if you've got some things around your mission and your contribution, and feeling like you're in limbo, and you really want to activate more of your divine self, then the highest contribution activation, visionary heart activation, leading into divine light activation, and then continuing with the academy, that can be a beautiful path. If you know that you're reaching an upper limit ceiling, or you're trading one form of abundance, or you're not actualizing what you know to be true on the spirit, in the higher planes, on the physical plane, then the birthright of love pathway and the manifesting with the Magdalene codes, and continuing with the academy may be the pathway to go. And then in the academy part, there's the more advanced curriculum, or not necessarily more advanced yet, support to continue to embody more of your extraordinary life. And so we do have clients partnering with us that they want to up level their career and their contribution in their business, their mission, and that may also be very personal to them, that they're contributing through sacred travel or through their own personal evolution. And then also applying that to the physical realm, to have this extraordinary work and life. So we'll wrap up here. And if you're feeling called to explore partnering with us on this path, you can always go to daniellehoffman.com, and you'll find the places to start. And a great place to start is with the highest contribution activation, the birthright of love activation, or the visionary heart activation. It gives you like a sample of the first activation and what it's like to partner with us. And then from there, if it's aligned, you may feel called to continue with divine light activation or the Magdalene codes. And then from there, if it's aligned, you may feel aligned to continue. Yet there's always the just taking that next natural step, and then you tune in again. Is that a complete step, or is it continuing on with the next activation set? That what we know to be true is that divine transmissions is in response to the calling and the asking of those that we have a divine appointment with. And so if that's you, you're sensing it's you, then we invite you to go to daniellehoffman.com and join us for a masterclass, or be in touch. And we can also explore together, based on what's up for you, what might be the most optimal path. All is light and love, and we are all.